Det her det er et webinar, som bliver holdt ved hjælp af Lifestyle Design Cluster. Og jeg tænker, at vi lister i gang nu. Så Christian og Morten, hvis I vil fortælle om, hvad vi skal opleve i dag.
Jo, ja, tak skal du have, Helle, og ja, velkommen til Designskolen Kolding. Det er vores tid nu til at præsentere, hvordan vi arbejder med CLO 3D. Det her, det er jo, som Helle også sagde, en del af en række, hvor det først var Harkea lavet en introduktion til CLO 3D, og bagefter har VIA lavet en, hvor de viser, hvordan de bruger bodyscanning og laver egne avatars. Så hvis ikke I har set dem, synes jeg, I skal tage og tjekke dem ud, og I kan finde dem på YouTube ved at google jer frem til dem her. Men ellers så, det vi har tænkt os at vise, det er, at jeg må heller lige sige, jeg hedder Christian Larnevik, og jeg er studieretsansvarlig på beklædning. Jeg har med mig Morten, som er vores værkstedsansvarlig på beklædning og studieadjunkt, og så har jeg mine to studerende med os, som er Silja fra BA2 og Rasmus, som er fra kandidaten første år. Og vi har simpelthen valgt at sige, altså den kreative tilgang, det er jo ikke fordi, at de andre ikke er kreative, men vi tager med helt ind i, hvordan de studerende, de arbejder med programmet. Så de har hver især lavet en video, hvor de viser, og de vil forklare, hvad det er, de gør, og hvilke overvejelser de har med at bruge programmet, også i forhold til at arbejde klassisk analogt. Og så bagefter, så har vi Christina Nedelkovic med os, og der kommer vi til at tale engelsk sammen, og jeg kan jo lige sige det nu. I'm just going to switch into English, so Christina knows what I'm going to say about her, but I've been very happy to work together with Christina here at the school, and she works as a consultant and a freelance designer, and she's here in this role to talk to us about how she and others in her position can help bridging the gap between this new, fairly new digital tool and into companies, how to use it, both for small and mid-sized companies. Right, okay, and just to sum it up, I'm going back into Danish. Så på Designskolen Kolding startede vi for godt 4 år siden med at bruge CLO 3D. Det kunne jo have været et andet virtuelt prototyping-program, men nu har vi valgt at bruge CLO 3D, som har en meget god brugerflade og intuitiv tilgang. Og det var vores grundlag for at vælge det. Og har arbejdet med det i godt, som sagt, 4 år, og kaster os videre ud i den digitale verden, hvad der ellers kommer med de ting, vi har på programmet med, og implementerer også de andre digitale tools, som VR, AR, AI, Big Data osv. over de næste par år. Så jeg tror, det var det, jeg lige vil sige nu herfra, og så vil jeg simpelthen bare lade det komme over til dem, der sidder og arbejder med det hele tiden. Så Silja, vil du ikke lige fortælle lidt om, hvem du er, og så ellers vise, hvordan du arbejder med tingene?
Yes, jeg hedder Silja Rosendal, og jeg går på bachelor på 2. år, og jeg har blevet introduceret til CLO på mit 2. semester, så det er lige, knap et år siden, at jeg begyndte at bruge det første gang. Og nu prøver jeg lige at dele skærmen, tænker jeg. Så det projekt, som jeg har taget udgangspunkt i, som jeg vil vise jer her i dag, det er sådan en vekselvirkning mellem at arbejde analogt og digitalt. Jeg starter den bare. Sådan her. Og jeg har så formudviklet en kollektion ud fra den her kjole, som I ser her på videoen, hvor at alle mine silhuetter, som kommer at blive om lidt, de ligger under sådan temaet begrænsning af bevægelsesfrihed, som er noget, jeg er blevet inspireret af ud fra nogle folkeeventyrfortællinger om den lille havfrue, så det er bare lige så I er introduceret til, hvorfor det ser måske lidt besværligt ud at have på. Men, og jeg skal lige sige, at den her video er speedet, så det er ikke så hurtigt her, jeg arbejder i virkeligheden. Men jeg starter som regel ud med at bruge bare et basis grundmønster, fordi så har man ligesom noget at gå ud fra, der forholder sig til kroppen, og så bliver det lidt nemmere og sådan tilrette det. Men det ligesom allerede sidder på en krop, og sådan, også fordi jeg bruger kloge ret meget til sådan at drapere lidt mere løs, så det der med, at der ligesom allerede er et mønster, gør det lidt mere overskueligt at forholde sig til. Og det især her er et tool, jeg bruger, som hedder Edit Style Line, som man ligesom kan trække i forskellige linjer på mønstret og sådan rimelig frit formgive dem. Og det er sådan en ret god mulighed for rimelig hurtigt at få bygget noget form op i den retning, som man godt kunne tænke sig. Og nu har jeg jo en skitse at gå ud fra, så jeg ved ligesom nogenlunde godt, hvad det er formmæssigt, jeg godt kunne tænke mig at opnå med det. Men ja, ellers så sådan går jeg egentlig rimelig meget frit i gang. Prøver lidt at forestille mig, hvad jeg tænker, hvordan det kunne komme til at se ud. Og her der er sådan, prøver jeg at lægge lidt ekstra vidde ind, og sådan åbne den i ryggen. Fordi den senere skal sådan være helt åben i ryggen og holdes op af det her tørklæde-agtige forstykke, der ligesom er. Men ja, hvis jeg lige skulle komme lidt ind på sådan nogle af de ting, jeg synes, der er fede ved kloge som studerende, er sådan det med her, for eksempel, der går jeg ind og bare sådan tegner i frihånd, og det kunne man jo selvfølgelig også gøre med et stykke stof og bare klippe noget random ud, så man lige tænker passer i den form, man godt kunne tænke sig. Men det med, at man hele tiden har muligheder for at rette det til, og der ikke er 1000 stykker, der sådan hænger sammen, men jeg rimelig nemt kan gå til og fra, og så bare gemme min fil, og så gå ind og rette videre i det, og hvis jeg lige får en idé til, når måske skulle den her være lidt bredere, eller lidt længere, sådan, det med, at man hele tiden kan gå let frem og tilbage, uden at det rigtig sådan, uden at man går på kompromis med den, det stykke beklædning, som man laver, eller ens model. Og så er det jo ret fedt, fordi man ligesom på den måde har lidt en uendelig mængde af stof, som man så kan bruge. Og der er det her tool, også et ret fedt tool, som er et, der hedder pin, eller det hedder pin, parentes box, som ligesom giver en mulighed for at fryse nogle elementer, men uden at sådan fryse hele det stykke, som man nu arbejder med fra mønstret. Og det er jo ret godt at bruge til, når man for eksempel her, som jeg laver, skal binde en knude, eller lave nogle andre sådan lidt mere organiske former, hvor de skal gå ind og sådan ligge over hinanden på en bestemt måde, som ellers godt kan være ret svært at få frem digitalt på en pæn måde. Ja, så der får man egentlig rimelig meget lov til at arbejde, som man vil gøre analogt, eller sådan, hvis man stod med det i hånden. Og det synes jeg også er noget af det fede, sådan, når man lærer nogle ekstra tools i kloge, at man ligesom får lov til at egentlig sådan simulere ret meget den måde, man arbejder analogt, men i noget, som hurtigere kommer til at se mere færdigt ud måske, eller i hvert fald for mit vedkommende. Yes. Så nu sidder de ligesom som det skal, og så kan man bare lade det falde. Og sådan, ja, så her bruger jeg et tool, som hedder tag, som fungerer ligesom knappenåle, så det er jo også meget bare at simulere, hvordan man vil arbejde i virkeligheden, til at få det til at sidde præcis som det skal. Og nu arbejder jeg også kun digitalt i det her projekt, eller med den her kollektion, så det her mønster skal ikke printes ud og syes op på noget tidspunkt, så derfor kan jeg rimelig fint bare anvende knappenåle, i stedet for at få sådan mønstret til at passe helt præcist. Ja, så langt så godt med silhuetten. Ja. Og så bruger jeg ret tit rendervinduet bare sådan undervejs, egentlig bare for at tjekke lidt, hvordan det sidder på en krop, når der ikke er alle mulige ekstra streger og linjer, og man får en lidt mere sådan idé om, hvordan faldet naturligt vil være. Og det her er også det samme tool, som hedder tag, men hvor man bruger den variation, der hedder tag on avatar, hvor du får mulighed for at bruge din avatar ligesom en gine, og så bare stikke nåle ind i hende. Det lyder lidt voldsomt, men ja. Ja. Så. Ja. Så jeg tror egentlig sådan, det jeg lidt har fundet ud af med programmet, og den måde jeg godt kan lide at arbejde med det, er egentlig meget, som jeg også vil arbejde analogt. Men hvor jeg bare får flere muligheder for, eller i hvert fald nogle andre muligheder for at udvikle det undervejs, og sådan få mere et hurtigt indblik i den form, jeg egentlig gerne vil udvikle. Og hvis jeg så skulle tage det ud og sy det op, så vil jeg nok komme til at rette nogle ting op på det printede mønster, og så kan jeg så lægge det ind i programmet igen og tegne det af på det mønster, jeg har. Og så vil jeg jo så til sidst ende med at få et mønster, der rent faktisk skal bruges. Men det jeg laver her er, fordi kjolen ligesom er stivet ud på den der måde, så i stedet for at prøve at lægge det ind som luft, så har jeg lagt det ind som nogle ringe, hvor jeg har lavet overskæringer i kjolen og syr de her ringe fast, som jeg har frosset. Og det har jeg simpelthen gjort bare ved at lave en ellipseform, og så lavet en internal ellipse inde i den, som er sådan næsten lige så stor. Hvor jeg så har frosset den ude i simulationsvinduet, og så kommer den jo så til at stå ud, og så kan man så placere den alt efter hvor det nu passer med kjolens længde. Og det bliver jeg egentlig bare ved med at gøre, også på de efterfølgende. Der kommer 2 ringe mere, hvor det bare er samme metode. Og det der også er meget fedt ved CLO er over, at man så bare kan. Nu har jeg haft et andet projekt, hvor jeg også skulle lave noget med nogle ringe, og der har jeg så haft mulighed for at måle dem op uden for programmet, de fysiske ringe, og så få det til at passe ind i programmet, bare ved at udregne, hvad skal omkredsen være, hvor mange dele skal jeg så have. Så på den måde er det også et sådan matematisk redskab, som er rimelig nemt at gå til, i hvert fald for mig, som måske ikke arbejder så meget med sådan matematik udover. Ja, så det er rimelig meget sådan, jeg arbejder her. Og nu prøver jeg bare lige at visualisere, at fordi kjolen, det er egentlig på skitsen, der står hun jo egentlig på en boks. Så det er meningen, at kjolen skal sådan gå et stykke længere ned end hendes fødder. Så det jeg gør, er at fjerne nettet og skygger. Og så bruger jeg den her tool i sådan avataren, som hedder Show X-Ray Joints, hvor der ligesom er et punkt hernede, sådan i skridtet på modellen, men hvor man kan rykke den hele i den form, som den allerede har. Nu har jeg så ikke lige filmet, men så kan man bare markere alle delene, og så rykke kjolen op igen, og så lige simulere, som den sidder, som den skal. Så det her er faktisk sådan, som formen er i sit endelige. Og den kommer lige op her, sammen med den skitse, som jeg så er gået ud fra. Så det er en ret nem måde, og det her er så noget af min kollektion, som jeg også har lavet i CLO, nogle variationer af. Ja, men til ligesom at rimelig hurtigt få en materialisering af sådan det, som man arbejder med. Yes. Så jeg stopper med at dele nu. Og ja, det var det for mig. Skal jeg sende den tilbage? Så.
Jamen, jeg tager bare direkte over, og håber, at I alle sammen kan høre mig. Mit navn er Rasmus, og jeg går på første år på masteren, og har taget bacheloren i Kolding på beklædning. Og har arbejdet i CLO i noget, der ligner 3,5 år. Har været med næsten fra start, men ikke helt. Og jeg vil selvfølgelig også vise jer noget, jeg har lavet. Se om jeg kan finde det her. Ja. Så går jeg ud fra, at alle kan se mit vindue. Ja, og den jeg gerne vil vise jer er den her. Der er lige nogle færdigrenderede billeder af den til at starte med, som I lige kan se, inden det går i gang. Ja, den er også speedet op, den her video, for lige at gøre det klart. Som I ser, så starter jeg med et almindeligt jakkemønster med et todelt ærme, hvor alle mine mønsterdele er spejlet. Så når jeg laver en ændring på den ene del, så gør jeg det også på den anden side. Det første jeg gør er at merge mine to skuldersøm, fordi at jeg gerne vil arbejde med selve overdelen af mine for- og bagstykker. Så jeg splitter dem for- og bagstykkerne midt over og merger mine underdele af for- og bagstykke sammen til sådan et helt stykke, der ligesom løber rundt om livet. Så jeg begynder at kunne lave nogle lidt anderledes skæringer i min overdel og ærme. Så jeg syr mit todelte ærme fast i ærmegabet, og for at sikre mig, at alle mål er, som de skal være, syr mit ærme sammen, og får lige syet eller merged mine to overdele, hvor jeg har mit for- og mit bagstykke, så det hele hænger sammen og er et stort stykke. Så simulerer jeg lige en gang for at se, om ærmet sidder på, som skal, om alle sygningerne passer, eller om der er nogen, der er blevet vendt på kryds og tværs. Så laver jeg en kopi af mit ærme til den anden side, en spejlvendt kopi, så ændringerne selvfølgelig kommer med, hvis jeg skulle foretage ændringer på mit ærme. Så syr jeg min midt for sammen, og det gør jeg for, at det er lidt nemmere lige at arbejde med. Og så går jeg ellers over i det, der hedder Edit Style Line Tool, som Silja også brugte. Et tool, som jeg er blevet rigtig glad for, fordi at man rigtig hurtigt og nemt kan tegne nogle linjer i 3D-vinduet og lave nogle skæringer i sit produkt, som hvis man skulle stå og lave dem i hånden, ville det meget hurtigt komme til at tage en evighed. Men her kan man meget nemt med det her tool lave nogle skæringer. Så jeg laver først en skæring, der løber på det bagerste stykke af ærmet, som så fortsætter i en lige linje hen over ryggen. Og så laver jeg en linje mere, som løber i den samme skæring, som det todelte ærme allerede har, og videre hen over ryggen. Og begynder langsomt at lave de her linjer, som hvis man så det på de første billeder, jeg viste, var der nogle linjer hen over skuldrene på jakken. Det så gør, at jeg merger de her dele sammen, henholdsvis mit ærmedel og rygstykket, og så retter jeg hjørnerne til, bare lige så der ikke er nogen skarpe kanter, hvis man skulle sy det her produkt. Så gør jeg lige det, at jeg sletter den ene halvdel, og det gør jeg for, at jeg kan bruge den funktion, der hedder Unfold Symmetric Editing, som gør, at hvis jeg ændrer noget på den ene side, så følger det med over på den anden side af mønstret. Og jeg tager den anden del af det bagerste af mit ærme og merger sammen med overdelen her. Prøver lige at skille mønsterdelen ad, så jeg har et overblik, og bruger det samme Unfold Symmetric Editing på det her. Og det begynder jeg lige så langsomt at gøre på delærmet i nogle lige store stykker, som løber hen over skuldre og brystet. Og det jeg synes er enormt interessant ved at gøre det her og bruge det på den her måde, er at jeg kan lave en masse sjove og interessante skæringer i et produkt, som hvis jeg skulle stå og gøre det i hånden, ville det tage mig en masse tid, hvor at her i CLO kan jeg meget hurtigt lave de her linjer, og jeg kan meget hurtigt ændre på dem, hvis der er et eller andet, jeg ikke synes fungerer. Jeg er ikke bundet af, at linjen allerede er tegnet, og at jeg er nødt til at starte helt forfra med et mønster. Det eneste, den her undersøgelse også koster mig, det er tid. Jeg skal ikke ud og bruge penge på materialer eller mønsterpapir for at undersøge og lave et mønster, jeg i forvejen er usikker på overhovedet kommer til at fungere. Og det er selvfølgelig super attraktivt, hvis man er en lille virksomhed eller en designer, der bare godt kunne tænke sig at teste et eller andet af, uden at bruge alt for meget tid på noget, man er usikker på, om kommer til at fungere. Så kan man altså i løbet af en dag, og i bedste fald i løbet af et par timer, lave noget, der er meget, meget realistisk og meget nært det virkelighedsprodukt, man kunne få i CLO. Så det er rigtig meget det, jeg bruger til. Tester forskellige ting ud, hvis jeg får en eller anden sjov idé med et linjeforløb. Og det er jo selvfølgelig også det, I ser her. Og jeg fortsætter med at dele mit ærme op. Der var en linje, der jeg ikke var så tilfreds med, så der kan man heldigvis relativt hurtigt rette den til, så den får et lidt mere korrekt forløb i forhold til, hvordan ærmet forløber sig. Og så går jeg ellers i gang med lige at lave den sidste skæring her hen over brystet. Og selvfølgelig merger jeg de her dele igen til min overdel, så jeg har ærme og overdel sammen. Jeg retter til, så der ikke er nogen skarpe hjørner. Og så får jeg merget den sidste del her til det mønster, der nu ligner sådan en edderkop, hvor jeg har alle mine ærme/overdele mønsterdele. Og retter de sidste hjørner til. En relativt simpel gentagelsesproces. Jeg tjekker lige hurtigt her under ærmet, om der er et eller andet, der ikke sidder som det skal. Har haft min stress map på hele tiden, som er de her blå trekanter, I kan se i 3D-vinduet. Stress map er noget, man kan bruge til at kigge på, om stoffet det passer der, hvor man vil have det, og om ens skæringer og ens syninger er korrekte. Hvis de her trekanter i 3D-vinduet lyser i røde, gule eller orange nuancer, så ved man, at der ligesom er noget galt, der er noget, der sidder for stramt, der er noget, der ikke sidder korrekt. Det trækker generelt for meget. Men lige nu ser det fint ud, så jeg fjerner den sammensøgning, jeg startede med at lave i min midtfor, og isætter her en lynlås. Som man finder i 3D-vinduet. Og så går jeg ind og ændrer mit materiale til sådan en lidt tyndere nylon kvalitet, og ændrer farven på jakken. Så går jeg ellers i gang med at konstruere en relativt simpel krave, laver en firkant, der har det samme mål som halvdelen af min halsudskæring, og så igen højreklikker jeg og trykker Unfold Symmetric Editing, så jeg ved, at de redigeringer, jeg laver på den ene side, kommer til at blive det samme på den anden side. Og til lige at placere det, har man de her prikker, man kan vælge over i 3D-vinduets toolbar til at placere for eksempel kraven rundt om halsen. Og til at sy det sammen bruger jeg et tool, der hedder M&N tool, som er rigtig smart, hvis man skal have syet en del fast til flere dele, og man gerne vil sikre sig, at ens syning er fordelt korrekt. Så går jeg i gang med den funktion, der hedder Fill, som I finder i bunden af 2D-vinduet. Det er til at lave jakken til en pufferjakke, hvor man kan vælge forskellige ting, man kan fylde jakken med. Og man kan også vælge vægten af det fyld, man putter i, og ligesom hvor voluminøs jakken skal være. Jeg har valgt at skrue godt gedint op for effekten af volumen og vægten, for at man ligesom kan fornemme de her baner, der kommer til at løbe hen over avatarens skuldre. Så jeg drejer den lige rundt for lige at se, om alting ser okay ud. Så ændrer jeg avatarens pose, og det gør jeg igen for at undersøge mit stress map til sådan en lidt mere dynamisk position. Undersøger lige aktiveret stress mappen her, hvor I vil kunne se, at der er noget, der blinker en lille smule med lidt gullige og rødlige farver. det er heldigvis så let, at jeg umiddelbart ikke gør yderligere ved det, og går tilbage til den første position, avataren står i. Så vælger jeg en lidt mere afslappet position til avataren, og slukker for min avatar, som man kan gøre i toolbaren i 3D-vinduet. Går ind og begynder at lave nogle af de sidste ændringer her. Ændrer lige lynlåsen til en plastikpuller, som jeg synes passer bedre til jakken. Det har man mulighed for at ændre over i sin property editor over ved siden af 2D-vinduet. Og så ændrer jeg også lige farven på tænderne på jakken. Så hopper jeg i 3D, eller i renderingsvinduet hedder det, som er oppe i den øverste toolbar. Og det er fordi, jeg vil begynde at gøre klar til at lave en rendering af mit produkt. Så jeg ændrer en baggrundsfarve til en lidt anden farve. Og så begynder jeg at tilføje lyskilder til mit rum. CLO har nogle standard lyskilder, man kan bruge, hvis man ikke har så meget mod på at sætte sit egen lys. Men jeg synes, der er en masse sjove lysfunktioner i CLO, som jeg synes er rigtig sjove at bruge. Det her er en funktion, der hedder directional light, hvor du får en lyskilde, der fungerer lidt ligesom solen fra en valgfri vinkel, og så kan man ellers justere på farve og intensitet af det lys her. Udover det så tilføjer jeg det, der hedder rectangle light, som fungerer lidt ligesom en stor lysboks, som jeg også i 3D-vinduet kan ændre og redigere på frit. Den placerer jeg så modsat mit directional light, for at sørge for, at der ikke er alt for mange skygger, som bliver kastet på jakken. Så den drejer jeg lige ind på jakken, og så sørger jeg ellers lige for at deaktivere den, så man ikke kan se i mit renderingsvindue. Så hopper jeg tilbage i 2D-vinduet for at justere min particle distance. Particle distance er noget, man justerer lige inden man skal til at rendere. Alt det, man laver i CLO, består af en masse små trekanter, og desto lavere din particle distance er, desto lavere afstand er der mellem de her trekanter. Og desto tungere bliver programmet også at køre for din computer. Men det får dit produkt til at se mere realistisk ud, når du laver renderinger. Så det jeg gør nu, det er, at jeg går ind og laver nogle preset vinkler, som jeg vil rendere mit produkt i. Der er et forfra, et fra siden, og et her sådan lidt skråt ovenfra. Jeg har ikke nogen faste presets, jeg leger egentlig bare lidt rundt, indtil jeg finder en vinkel, jeg synes er interessant. Her er et nærbillede af kraven, og et nærbillede mere af skulderen, og til sidst et skud fra 90 graders vinkel fra siden. Jeg sætter dem i gang med at rendere, og det er speedet op rigtig meget her. Hvis I følger med i bunden, kan I se minuttallet, der tæller. Jeg mener, det tager lige knap 14 minutter at rendere de her 6 billeder, hvilket egentlig er relativt hurtigt. Og til allersidst vil jeg så lige vise, hvordan man kan tilføje et print. Og der kan man have fundet et billede inde på nettet. Man kan have lavet noget, man har scannet ind eventuelt, eller bare bruge et tilfældigt billede, man har på computeren, hvor man så kan gå over i sin property editor og ændre på teksturen. Hvis man går ind i tekstur, kan man vælge et billede, og derved tilføje det som et print, som man så har mulighed for at ned- og opskalere. Det kommer automatisk ind som et rapportprint, så det vil bare ligesom forlænge sig selv, uanset hvordan man skalerer det op eller ned. Ja, så det kan I lige se hurtigt her. Det var egentlig det, som jeg havde. Tak.
Ja, tusind tak, Silja. Tusind tak, Rasmus. Altid spændende at stå på sidelinjen og få lov at se, hvad I har gang i. Okay, and now we're going to switch over to English, and Christina Nedelkovic, who we got here today with us to bridge from the being designer and into to the companies. And here we're especially talking about the small to mid-sized companies. So Christina, could you sort of tell us a little bit about who you are and also your journey as a designer and into using CLO 3D. So if you sort of put us into that setting, thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much for introduction. And yeah, I'm going to switch to English. It's still more comfortable for sure, even though I understand a lot in Danish. Yeah, so I'm a 3D fashion designer, and I'm self-employed for 2 years now. The company that I'm self-employed in is called 3D Can. It's one-person company, so there are no people behind it. It's only me standing there. And I work with a lot of different companies, from startups to medium-sized and some of the big companies as well. So I work with Bugner and Saint-Tropez, which is from Dike company, and Vila if we talk about big companies. If we talk about some startups, that's Ionian, and a lot of others that I don't know if you even know them, so I don't know if I should mention them. But they're all coming from all parts of the world. So they're not only Danish companies. Oh yeah, Triton is one of my biggest clients. I forgot about Triton company. They're based in Sweden. So I work with a company based in Denmark, Sweden, Germany. I also have clients from Australia as well. So it's really not geographically, it's the whole world. So there is no limit with what kind of nationality I work with. And my journey started back in bestseller. So I was a traditional fashion designer. I studied fashion design at King's University in UK, and I was doing everything in traditional way. So I was doing pattern making and all the stuff that usually fashion students are doing. And then I got a job in bestseller where I spent 4 years, and this is where I was introduced with the 3D for the first time. Actually, I got to know about 3D when we visited suppliers in China, and I was very skeptical about it and very critical and very negative as well. Because when I saw the program, I was like, oh my God, what is this? Nobody's ever going to use it. And this is not something that it's at all going to be that important. But after 6 months from that trip, I'd actually installed the program on my computer, and I started working in it. And then I realized, like, okay, this is a very interesting program. This is very special and it's different. And I loved it so much. So yeah, and that's why I understand when sometimes I speak with some of the clients and they want to implement 3D, and some of them are being very negative about it. I totally understand it, because I'm like, I was the same. And when I started and I saw what you can do about it, then I changed my mind. Yeah, I think I went a little bit like opposite ways, but anyway, I think that's the shortest story of how I started. So I'm self-taught 3D designer.
Well, thank you very much. And I was thinking also, when now you were talking about production and in China, when the production line do you mainly see the use for a program like CLO 3D or virtual prototyping in general in a small to mid-sized company? Where does it really make a difference, in your opinion?
I think the biggest difference and the biggest value of 3D is when you go from digital to physical. There is no doubt about that, because 3D is unlimited. What you can do in 3D in general is really unlimited. You can make anything. But I think where it starts getting like a huge value is when you can make from that dress that you made in 3D and you can produce as well. And it is possible to do. Sometimes some companies have to spend more time on making that happen. Some of them spend less time, because of course that also depends on your suppliers, what kind of supplier you have. Are they willing to adopt? Are they willing to try? And so on and so forth. But this is where the biggest value is, I think.
So there are definitely there's some benefits, and there might be both some pros and some cons. Could you touch upon those that you have seen, when you implement it, what are the pros besides of the excitement? Where does it, could you tell us a bit about that?
Do you mean by production ready, or you mean like in general 3D?
I think it would be nice to talk both from, starting out from production, since that might be what most people are interested in or could be interested in. So what are the benefits of using this program? I mean, if we think about it for the people who have not yet ventured into and are sort of contemplating, could this be anything for us? What are the benefits of the program, followed by the challenges, perhaps?
Yeah, there are definitely challenges as well. But I think specifically when it comes to production ready, I thought the same, that this is going to be the most popular and something that I will do the most. But I don't do that the most, because that's the most difficult part of 3D. And that's why usually companies, when something is, especially fashion companies, I got to learn that as soon as something is very difficult, they leave that for later. So because it seems like, well, let's do something that is easy first. And that's like, of course, using for product development. As here, you don't have to think about production yet. Here you think about designs. So imagine how in a big companies or in small companies or any company, usually you sketch in Illustrator, like a flat drawing, and you send to suppliers. And then they have to kind of guess what you meant by this, because a lot of flat sketches are not precise, especially if they don't have measurements. It's just a flat image. So they have to see what you meant by this, and they have to analyze a lot. So this is where 3D, for example, is really proven that it works really well. As we replace flat sketches and we do it in 3D instead. And this is where you can make decisions before it's being produced. So if you have this beautiful rendered image, very often people can't tell if it's real or not anyway. So then they say like, okay, I want this style, I want that style. Especially if you also have marketing people, sales people, they will have to have opinion about everything. That's normal. So if they can also choose something faster and easier, then it works for them as well. And then you can produce it later. And then we can talk about production ready, which is a challenge in a way that depends what kind of software program also suppliers use. If you work with suppliers from China, Bangladesh, or you work with Turkey and European suppliers, it really, there are a lot of different things that has to be taken into consideration and could be challenging.
Mm-hmm. And so with all these new programs like that, what are the skills, the competencies, what are the mindset we as designers need to develop? And I'm thinking both, it's of course of students, but also for people who are already working in the field. What are the main things to focus on for this move?
Yeah, I think for designers, it's not difficult. Designers are never being a problem when it comes to 3D, as I guess we are creative people. I guess we have to be. And then for us, it's easy to jump on 3D and try and think like, oh, this is amazing. I think the biggest challenge would be definitely other people like sales, for example, in the company. For them, it's more difficult to understand what it is all about and how does this save anything. But for designers, I don't think it's a huge challenge. And of course, I do believe that the better you are, the more you work in Cloud 3D specifically, the better you will become, and the more stuff you're going to see, you know, especially if you test it as well. Like, you know how in design, a school calling you plot it. That's a great learning circle to also see how that works. And yeah, so if you try different things and just explore a bit more, what are the possibilities, then you can definitely implement that in the companies as well.
So it seems that apart from the skills you need to build and the mindset and so on, it's definitely, there's an element of time to it as well.
Yes, yeah, time definitely. And there's sometimes it doesn't work in everyone's favor, I have to say, especially in the companies again, as people already have jobs and they have to suddenly switch and try to understand what, you know, to develop this digital mindset, which doesn't take from one day to the other. Like you have to work in it to be able to adapt to it. I don't know how to explain in the best way, but it's not like you just start working and then you're like, oh, this is natural to me. It's not natural to anyone, but I think it's more kind of like adoption. Mm-hmm. And for someone it's faster, for someone it takes a bit more time, but yeah, everyone can get there.
Well, that's good to know. But it is a field that has been moving very, very rapidly. It has been exploding, and you have to keep up. How do you manage to keep up in the new how things are moving? You know, one thing is for production, but there's also the metaverse, digital fashion, and so on. How or where do you keep up?
I think when I work, again, working with fashion companies is different with working with digital companies or gamers or character companies, because in that part, I have to focus on technical part. I need to understand mesh, UVs, all the other stuff, how many polygons one character has and so on and so forth, because I'm not the only one using that model that I create. So I have to send to someone who has to make animation out of it, for example. And then the process is very different. And this is where also we help a lot each other. So they tell me what they need from me, and then I can explore, but I also have to learn other software programs. So for me, it's not enough to know only how to make clothes. I have to also know how that clothes reacts in Unreal Engine, in other software programs. I need to test it myself. So learning more things and exploring more software programs is, I think, very important, especially as a self-employed, because that's the only way people can work with me and I can have different clients.
Yeah, and that is, of course, also because you do make both, you do work for companies that make clothes, but also, as you said, for gamers and characters, and so, which is a totally different field again. But if you were only to work with clothes, you would not necessarily have to use all the other programs. You could have somebody else doing that as well. So it doesn't have to be totally overwhelming, but you've taken the full package yourself.
Yeah, exactly. You can also use just CLO and go all the way and render image, and that's enough. Very often that's enough for a lot of fashion companies.
Yeah. So could you, what would you like to pass on to other companies who might want to look into this and start a journey? Have you got like 3 things to take away or give away to them to say what to start, how to start this climbing this journey?
I think first I will definitely recommend what everyone would probably, and that's to do a research, to get informations. And especially to get the right informations, because there are a lot of people, I guess there are a lot, I have them on LinkedIn at least, and people work in different ways, they have different information. Some people maybe call themselves something that they're not, and so on and so forth. That's also like the bad part about social media, then who you should go to and who you should trust. And I think the best would be if someone has a proven results. That's always the best to find, either if you want to have consultations and you decide that you don't want to go with agency, because of course with agency it's going to take more time for them to prove something that it works. If you hire a freelancer or myself, for example, like one person, I can go and quickly show you like a bit how that can work. So they can get results before, and you can say like, okay, let's run a pilot at first before you implement and make any decision. That's always good to go like small steps and step by step, instead of investing some huge money and maybe you figure out, okay, this doesn't work for me, because you need to see how that works for you.
That's good. So if a company wanted to start out and wanted to hire somebody in to do it, what is your experience within being part of the analyze? Is it the company that make the analyze, does the analysis of it, or is it is there somebody out there who can help you with that analysis as well?
That really depends on which stage they are in. Some companies already started themselves, which means that they already collect a lot of information, they've done research, they have some sort of manager as well who's supposed to implement 3D. And then if you have for example, a graduate who is working in 3D, that's also totally fine to bring in a company, and then you can work together. Sometimes it's so new to them, and then they hired a company, and not a company, a person, and then they expect that you're going to figure out everything. So you have to also be careful, like what they want from you, because sometimes they're like, oh, we just want 3D, but they don't tell you too much how far they are, and then you join, and then you're like, oh, so they didn't do anything, so it's all on me now. So I think it has to, it really depends on which stage they're in.
Yeah, and I take it that is I think this is just like any other big task you want to take out. You need to understand the area, and you don't really understand it till you've been in it for some time. But with having some little pit stops, along the way, saying we start out here and we find out more. So that could be actually really an advice to give to companies as well, to perhaps start out sooner than they would think, with including somebody else and talking to them, how could we start this, instead of thinking something and then perhaps have gone down the wrong path because we can't do everything and anything in no time.
Yeah, exactly, like 100%. And I also, what I realized as well, sometimes I hear from the company saying like, oh, I don't want to start this because I want to see other people starting, and I want to see how much they got, how far they got, and then I'm going to start if I see that it works in their company. But I think maybe it's going to take them 10 years to get there. So you're going to wait for 10 years. I don't think that's better. I think it's better that you start, because maybe you will do it better than they are, as this is so new to everyone. So you don't know who's going to be more successful and who's not. And I also know that some companies that started, they spend 3 years and they give up. There is also a case of that as well, which is also like a bit, but it happens because they figure out, okay, I don't know how to do this actually. And they just give up. And there are companies who change strategies totally. They start one way, then they totally change after 3, 4, 5 years. And some of them succeed, some of them they don't, you know, so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, thank you very much, Christina. I was thinking that we could now open up for if anybody has any questions for Christina and how it's done, or if they have any questions for Silja or Rasmus. Helle, have you seen, are there any questions in the chat? No, not really. Anybody with a question?
Thank you very much for a very interesting webinar, whatever we call this. I was wondering, when you are in the 2D part of the CLO program, would it be possible to also calculate the fabric use and how it's laid out in terms of the width? I was just thinking more when it comes to companies to use this tool, that could be extremely helpful and maybe make it even more interesting to use.
Yes, it is possible. There is an option where in CLO you can put like a digital fabric, and then you can count the width of the fabric, and you can place your patterns there. So you can see how much, you can even calculate how much wastage you have. So computer can calculate for you, when you place the patterns, how many percentage there will be left over, which I think it's amazing that you can do that.
Yeah.
As then you can, manipulate better and use fabric better.
And do they use it? Have you tried applying this tool when you've been proposing designs?
They use it like usually from supplier side, or if you work with suppliers and they supposed to produce and not you, then you can screenshot, or you can send them like PDF, whatever format you want, and be like, okay, this is the consumption that I found. And it's, to be honest, they're using them themselves a lot, just in another program. But if you also understand it, then of course it's also better. Again, depending what kind of company it is. Medium-sized, bigger companies, they don't care too much about wastage and price. So that's why they don't calculate that much. But you can do it if you want to know the price. I always feel like that's a good thing if I'm a buyer, for example, and I come to a designer, so like how much this would be in waste. I would do that just for, at least to test it out and see how it works. But yeah, some companies do, but not that often.
Okay, but if I've just a proposal, if they're going to be taxed on the carbon, then it might be very, very interesting suddenly. Yes,
I think it would be. I also think that's another thing, and actually that's a pretty interesting question because nobody asked about that part, but it's very interesting because I think this is where we can again argue how different 3D can be used. You know, how many different stages you can use, and with patterns, with design, with production, like they're different, but like it sounds like very different, but it's one program that can do all of these things. And I think this is where technology is amazing, where everyone can participate and, like find what's valuable for them to calculate or to work on. So I totally agree. I wish every brand is doing that. That would be amazing.
Thank you. Very informative.
Thanks. No.
And if I can just add something to that about using how the use of the fabric, it's very good. You can go to that as a designer, because then you can optimize your pattern. So if you don't want to waste, if you want to do minimum waste or even zero waste, you know exactly where and how. And
Also, if you have something digital printed, you can decide on what should be printed on the fabric, and the scraps you of course don't have to print. So that's also a good way of using the fabric, I think. There is companies that are working like that. So it's
do you mean print like AOP? Sorry, Morten.
Sorry?
Do you mean, when you say print, you mean like AOP? Like when you place the print on the fabric and then you see how, is that what you mean, right?
And then you can and then you can decide, okay, this is going to be printed, and what is not going to be used, we're going to leave for scraps. Of course, it is not going to be digital printed. In the old mindset is that it's just like an all over print on the fabric. but now you can like decide, and also according to sizes of the garments that you're using, you can use it like that as well. So the print can have different sizes according to the size of the actual garment. So it's just a good way of using that as well, the layout of it.
Actually, I have an example, if because you just gave me, that's a perfect also way of using it. For example, I had a pattern from that I got from my client, and then I just place it in CLO, and then we decide, okay, this is too small, and then I scale it up, and then I could see how many percentage it is. And what I sent to suppliers, I said to them, use this, but scale it up by 35%. And they did, and then you got in real life a really good print that is like in the size that you need. That's a really good example, actually. Thanks, Morten.
Yeah, you know, if you want to see great examples of how that is used, you can go to the Italian company called Pucci, who they use the same print for any size you have. So if you are, whether you're size 34 or 44, you have the same look. That means you don't have, if it's a floral print, you don't have more flowers. If you're bigger size or fewer, it's just placed, so it's just scaled up like that. So that's a good place to check it out as well. Any other questions on either the program or yes, Daniel?
Yeah, I was thinking about scaling patterns when you do different sizes. Is there a smart function for that to check if you've scaled the pattern already, to check does this fit as it should on a size XXX, for example?
Yeah, there is also that way. It's also automatic. I mean, first you have to put some measurements and the sizes and divide. Even if you write on YouTube different sizes, CLO 3D, for example, there is a really good video on YouTube explaining exactly how you can do it instead of me going in it, but it is possible. So you can use the same pattern and check how it works in different sizes.
Okay, that's great.
Yeah.
And can you also, when you're working on a garment, change the model out? So now I want the one with a bigger bust or a bigger, okay.
That's also possible. We can make different kind of avatars. You can make within CLO 3D. They're not perfect, but they're still good as a starting point. Of course, I always would recommend using another software program to make models because you can make better. But as a starting point, it's really good to also use different measurements. You can change the measurements on the avatar, and then you can create any measurement you want and see how it's going to fit.
Well, that's good. Yeah. Cool. How about how reliable is the program CLO 3D? Because sometimes, I don't know how new the program is, but sometimes when you're working digitally, if you have a large file, it can be really annoying when it crashes and you lose important progress.
If you mean like how reliable is, do you mean by production? Like how much you can trust the digital in comparison to physical, or? No,
when you're working in it, do you often lose progress? Like if you've made a sketch and the program crashes, or does it run? It runs well.
It runs usually well if you have a good computer.
Okay.
So that's for every software program, you need a really good, strong computer, like a good graphics card and processor. So if you buy, the best would be to build computer yourself or find someone who understands computer better and build for you. But you need certain, of course, components to be able to run it smoothly so it doesn't crash. I would never use it on Mac and never use it on laptop on Mac.
Oh, okay.
Because you will get a lot of crash because it's not built for 3D software programs.
Can I add something? I don't know if there's echo. One moment. Is it gone? Okay, great. Daniel, I just wanted to add that the CLO has on their website specifications on what sort of things you should have on your computer, how great the graphic card should be, and the processor. They have like these minimum standards that you can find on their website. And I just wanted to come with an example. I started using it on a MacBook Air. I would definitely not recommend that because it burnt down my computer within half a year. But I would also say that you can work on a laptop. I use a Lenovo Legion, which is like for gaming, which is a great laptop for for working in CLO, and I've done that for the last almost 2 years now. So if you find a great laptop, it is possible, but always check the recommendations on CLO's website.
Yeah, just not Mac laptops. That's what I meant. Sorry, because Mac is a bit problematic.
Yeah, I mean, we can just state also the problem with Mac is they don't have a dedicated graphic card, so you can't even go into the mode. You just do it from the graphic. You choose to use the energy from the processor on the graphic card. So that is the issue with Mac. But if I can just go back to something you said, Christina, before, you were talking about how it's so easy. You go on YouTube, you find a tutorial on how to do it. And that is the thing. This, I think, is the beauty of being part of the digital solutions right now, is there's quite a community. Both CLO themselves make a lot of videos, and other people make, and there's a lot of sharing is caring. So people are very eager to help each other out. And if you can be creative enough to formulate the problem, the solution is out there, I'll bet.
Yeah, that's true. And I think digital community, I call digital people or digital community because they're so not skeptic, but egoistic in that sense, that, or selfish. I think people have really share so much knowledge online. It's crazy. Like, they say everything. I think you can almost find everything about it.
Daniel, do you have a question?
Yeah, can I ask one more? How about compatibility working with CLO and, for example, Illustrator or other 3D, maybe CAD programs? Can you, for example, can you take vector sketches and move them to CLO, or can you take STL files that you've made in a 3D print program and move them over and place them?
I didn't try STL file in CLO 3D. I tried it in Blender, and that works. But I didn't try it in CLO 3D. But you can of course do a lot of graphics in Illustrator and Photoshop and place it in CLO. That's not a problem. You can also design objects in Blender and place it in CLO. That's not a problem either. So STL, I did not test that. But yeah, I'm pretty sure if you create STL file, save it as STL or vector, and then you can, when you go to CLO, there's an option called import, and then you can see what you can import. And if there is STL, then you can. I don't think you can in CLO 3D, but I could be wrong. So. Okay,
but you have placed 3D model figures just from Blender, and it's not an issue.
Yeah. When I design clothes, I design in CLO, and if I make a character or dog sometimes in Blender, then I import dog here, and then the dog has to have some clothes, then I create in CLO, and then I export clothes, and then I connect them together in another software program. So you can combine without any problems.
Okay. Also for, how about for trim, when you have zippers and buttons?
Yes, I create all the trims in Blender and import in CLO. So it is possible.
Okay.
And you can even make some trims in CLO if you don't want to leave the program. That is possible too. If you want to make a button or something like that, it's possible too. Yeah. So it's cool. Very good. I mean, if you Daniel, you asked about the program, you didn't know how old it was. I think it's like a bit more than 10 plus old, but it comes from actually Marvelous Designer, which is the gamer program, or the program for gamers to make in, and then they went into doing it for businesses instead. So therefore it has been on a journey on getting more accurate as well on pattern making in the 2D window as well. So you have the accuracy, and you can do all the things you can do classically by hand as well.
That's so awesome. I just want to intervene right now because we're running a bit over time now. So I don't know, Crystal or Morten, if you just have any finishing remarks. Otherwise, I just want to thank Rasmus and Silja and Christina. It was really interesting and great to see how you work with the program during your studies as well. So thank you very much all.
Yeah, thank you so much, Helle, for helping us out here. I'll just say, if any questions anytime, just reach out, contact us, and yeah, we'll take it from there.
Okay, good. Thank you, everybody. Have a nice day.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.